Yeah, no, I have a
Are we
picture.
all
Let me
ready?
see if I can find it.
You ready down there? You guys ready down there? Yes, sir. You guys ready? Okay. Please stand for flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's have a moment of silence for what happened over in Manchester. Okay, thank you. In conformance with the Open Public Meeting Law, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this meeting setting forth the time, date, place, and purpose of this regular meeting through notice posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, mailed to all who have requested and paid for same, and published in the Suburban Trend. Roll call, please.
Mayor Sarah.
Here.
Council President Wright.
Here.
Councilman Bay.
Here.
Councilman Baranco.
Here.
Councilman Delay.
Here.
Councilman Giaconetti.
Here.
Councilman Bennett.
Here.
With us this evening is our Borough Attorney Joseph Ragno and our Borough Administrator Kevin Boyd.
Okay, thank you. I have no presentations and updates right now. In my report, I will do that. I will have a motion to open the meeting for public comments.
So moved.
Council President Riker, second, Councilman Devine. All in favor? Aye. Against? Anyone from the public would like to address? Is that flip?
Randy Hinton, 443 on Clare Avenue. At the last meeting, I had brought up a question on the pilot. I was talking to Councilwoman Riker about it, and the question, you kind of answered my question, and Councilwoman Riker had went out on her own to find out more information, and she talked about, basically that was for chairman of the redevelopment committee, and she was going to talk to him about it. And I posed my question, and you answered it as best as you could. And you said if there was any other questions, to bring them to the redevelopment meeting itself. So I came to the redevelopment meeting, but there was no redevelopment meeting. Door was locked, meeting was canceled.
It was canceled.
I went down the hallway, and I happened to see Councilman Devine and Lori Clinton. They were working on a project in the building department. And Councilman Devine told me, he said, yes, the meeting was canceled. Did you check your website? And I go, well, I'm not that web-oriented. But my thought on that was, if a meeting is to be canceled, there's supposed to be legal notice in the paper. Is that not correct?
That's not correct.
It can just be canceled?
Has been noticed on the door or on our website.
And it was on the door,
It was on the door?
yes.
Now, I mean, there was the chance for the public to speak, but there was no meeting. I thought if the public was able to speak,
No. If they cancel a meeting, for whatever reason they cancel a meeting, the meeting's canceled.
Lori had said there was nothing on the agenda,
That's when they cancel.
That's
so I didn't get a chance to ask my question there also.
Next month you can do that. Or you can ask us here and we can try to find out for you.
Well, it was the same question, I just wanted to pose it to them and get their opinion on it. As Councilwoman
What do you
Riker
want
had
your
said.
opinion on? Or do you
The
don't want
question.
me to- Oh, okay. I'm not quite sure what you want your opinion on.
No, it was my question that I had asked at the last council meeting.
Right.
About the
And I wanted to ask, as you said, you went to that
I went
presentation.
to a CLE presentation.
Correct. And you had said you were not sure to what extent some of the technical information would be of that much interest to the general public. So I just wanted to ask them my question. We're just all, the
okay,
general
but-
public is also trying to figure out the whole pilot program itself.
The bottom line, the takeaway from the meeting basically was, and I'll try to say it in different words. The takeaway basically was that pilots are prevalent, pilots are necessary, but that's the legal test, but for the presence of a pilot, redevelopment would not occur. That was the major takeaway. A secondary takeaway, because it was such a well-balanced panel, well-balanced in that you had representation from the redevelopment community, representation from the legal community, representation from, there were several municipalities who had set successful redevelopment, so it was the best balance that I had seen in a redevelopment program. And the takeaway from the balance of the participants basically was that pilots are highly negotiable, that there are many facets to a pilot in terms of negotiating, and that both us as a borough, in terms of the people who will be coming to us for pilots, will need to have expert legal advice. That was the takeaway, because of the variation in projects. And basically, the redeveloper who was there, who was a very successful redeveloper, who had done different types of projects in different communities, basically tried to send the message to the audience. It's not a one-size-fits-all, and that each project needs to stand on its own in terms of the extent of the negotiations for the details of the pilot. And I think that answers your question.
Right. How long has pilot been in effect? I mean,
I don't remember.
10
Joe,
years,
do you remember when the
15 years?
statute started? I think it's at least 15, 20 years ago.
15, 20 years.
And you know, Michael Fabrizio, who's our redevelopment agent, you can always give him a call. And if you have a question, if you can't wait till the next meeting, then he'll be glad to answer it.
So there has been redevelopment before pilot was ever in existence, correct? They've been doing projects for
Well,
hundreds
back
of
when
years.
a market is good, yeah, it's easy to do redevelopment. When markets are not good, it's harder to do.
So basically, pilot is when the market is not good.
Not necessarily.
No.
It's an
No,
incentive.
remember, redevelopment and development are not the same word. Redevelopment means you take a community like ours, which is arguably 95%, if not more, fully, considered a fully developed community. We're not a farm community with all sorts of pieces of vacant land. A community like that would need redevelopment, as opposed to just plain old outright development, which you see in other communities.
It's an incentive for the builder.
Right.
The current version of redevelopment law, the current version was adopted in 1992. It contains the pilot in it.
Started back then, yeah.
Yeah. So you're looking at 25 years ago right now.
Okay, just trying to figure it out, and I went to the meeting, and it was canceled. Should there be a meeting next month?
Depends if there's something on the agenda. If there's nothing up for the agenda, they're not going to have a meeting, no.
Or just for the general public to ask questions?
They don't
about?
have meetings for the general public. They're having meetings for developers coming in to present projects.
Let me clarify something, and maybe it's getting lost in the shuffle. Not all communities have redevelopment agencies. Our communities spend a lot of time, energy, going down to Trenton. We had all sorts of forms we needed to fill out, all sorts of advice to become a redevelopment agency. We don't just say, poof, we're a redevelopment agency. We were, in fact, granted that status through the auspices in Trenton.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose of the redevelopment agency is to, when I say streamline the process, in that one of the takeaways, if you're asking me what other things I learned at this meeting, one of the takeaways is that some communities are known as being easy to deal with, that they welcome redevelopment, and this is a place where the redevelopers want to spend their time, energy, and money. Other communities just can't get out of their own way, and basically they say, look, don't waste your time and energy going there. When, by us establishing a redevelopment agency, we are sending a signal to the redevelopment community that we're serious about this. We're trying to streamline it, we're trying to fast track it, to try to take some of the onus off the council's shoulders, so that in terms of when you go to a redevelopment agency meeting, you have, I'm the council representative, but the other members of the redevelopment community, quite frankly, we have again, when I talk about well-balanced panels, we have an architect, we have 2 bankers, we have a builder, we really have all the expertise that you would want to have on that agency. But the goal is to, when I say fast track it, the goal is to send it so that they don't have to come before the planning board, don't have to come before the council, that we can work out all these architectural details, and then once something appears to be ready to go, then it comes to the council, and then the council can tweak it. But the council doesn't have to be involved in every nuance of a project.
And the last thing I'll mention about that is, we're fortunate enough to have a bid that welcomed the redevelopment, looking for redevelopment, because they feel it's going to help their businesses downtown. So they do pick up the cost of, because they have their own budget, for a lot of the initial setups for this redevelopment group that we put together. We didn't, as a town, have to put too much time and energy in there. For the date, still putting money into small parts of it to pay for experts or people about parking or whatever it is. They're paying for some of that cost.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman, thank you for your explanation.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public, please?
Kelly Tosiello, 444 Midland Avenue. I just want to go, I went to the meeting yesterday, I asked about the Montclair Ave with the ordinances. I know it's soon, but you didn't get a chance to ask
No,
that.
I was hoping to catch him when I came in, but he wasn't in.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping to, but I'll come in at a certain time. Now, I'm allowed to have that ordinance, a copy of it?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
course.
So if I go in and ask for that ordinance to read it over,
And if they're not following what was set up initially, that's what our building inspector will take a look at.
Right,
And see
right.
if they're following the rules. That's what he's there for.
okay. It just seems like, we have 100 trucks a day, we have the quarry bouncing us back and forth with the homes shaking all day long, and now we have employees that's conversation laughing and waking you up in your backyard. It's just a fiasco.
Well, I'm going to be honest, if the decibel level is not over a certain level, unfortunately, there's not much we can do about that.
I know, yeah, well, we have all kinds of,
Right.
my Savannah's cracked. Just to clarify, not all meetings are supposed to be published in the newspapers, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so bid is not one of them, but the council and any other committees supposed to be
Not
published.
committees, no, committees are not.
Committees are not published in the.
Council meetings, yes, yeah.
Only council meetings.
Planning
And
and
zoning, planning and zoning.
planning, zoning, and council, yes, will be in the paper.
And the rest, they don't have to advertise. in
But they
the-
do have to put up a notice on the door if they're canceling.
Right.
And on our website, they all have interaction into the website, so they should be open noting it on there. And, occasionally I run into, I go to a lot of these meetings, and occasionally I run into a meeting that's canceled, and they didn't put a notice on the door, and I remind them, look, it's not fair to the public, you need to
Right.
notice the public, let them know there's no meeting. If someone's coming here to speak, they have that right to do that, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify which ones are supposed to be in the newspaper.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session? Who was that? Councilman Ranko or Councilman Begg? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Approval of minutes. Motion to approve the following minutes. Regular meeting minutes of May 10th, 2017. Can I have a motion? Councilman Devine.
Second.
Council President Riker. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Any presents? No. Okay. Bills and claims, motion to approve the following bills and claims list as listed below. Can I have a
So
motion?
moved.
Councilman Begg. Second. Councilman Devine, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Petitions, we have none. Consent agenda, whenever you're ready, Liz.
Does anyone wish to have any resolutions closed? No? Okay. Whereas the mayor and council of the borough of Pompton Lakes has reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions, whereas the mayor and council of the borough of Pompton Lakes does not desire to remove resolutions for individual action from that agenda. Now therefore be it resolved that the following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved. Resolution 17-107 through 17-115.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Resolutions for separate action.
There are none.
There are none, I'm sorry. Introductions, ordinances, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Ordinance 17-12, final adoption is on June 14. An ordinance amending section 5-20.3 of the Administrative Code.
Motion to approve ordinance 17-12 for introduction. So moved. Councilman Devine?
Second.
Councilman Bennett. Discussion?
No, this is-
No discussion?
Oh, you want me to take, okay.
I want you to.
That's not a problem. The purpose of the ordinance is to add a couple of exceptions to the right of solicitors to be able to solicit throughout the municipality without having the need to get a permit. They would include things dealing with religious proselytizing, political and social issues, because that is more in compliance with federal law that's been established through the Supreme Court and federal legislation.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Giaconetti.
Yes.
Councilwoman Riker.
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Councilman Bay.
Yes.
Councilman Branco.
Yes.
Councilman Delotte.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Okay, under my report, I'd like to start with, I know, we're in the age of Facebook and everybody knows everybody's business in town. A lot of people are concerned about properties that are overgrown, or the grass is too high, or they're not cutting their grass. I will tell you, the town right now does cut properties that no one is responsible for. Right now, we have 6 on that list, is that correct?
Yeah, 6, 7, new one today.
7? Okay, a lot of those other properties are people who live in the homes. It's been rough weather on the weekends, they probably haven't gotten to it. But if it's getting high enough where it's causing you a concern as a resident, you can always reach out to the building department, and they'll take a ride over, they'll take a look at the property, they'll knock on the door and say, hey, look, you gotta cut the grass. If they don't do it in one first try, there might be a summons the second time. If it's bank-owned, we will go after the bank and have them pay to get someone to cut it. If they refuse or don't do it, then we will cut it and put a lien on the property. The same thing goes for, you'd be surprised how many homeowners are just not cutting their grass and not living in their home anymore. So they are still responsible for those homes and take care of the grass. So again, the same thing would happen. If they refuse to cut the grass, we would cut it, go out and cut it, and then we would put a lien on their property to recoup the costs. I did drive around town because I see there are a lot of homes that the grass is still a little high. Hopefully, they get to cutting them. I did send our inspectors out to take a look. I told them to drive around, knock on the doors, find out who's in those homes. If we can't figure out who's in there, do a search on the banks and the tax records to find out. So we're aware of all the properties that need to be cut, or we're trying to. But if you feel you have an issue, please call the building department, and we'll try to take care of that. Okay, under my report, I attended a library meeting and swore in a new member there. Ozzie Diaz. Welcome him, and I will tell you, the library board and the Friends of the Library, which I'm sure Councilman Bennett will talk about, they're doing a good job. He has some numbers of what they've already raised. They raised that money to help with the cost of the everyday running of the library, which is a good thing, and I hope I give them a lot of credit for doing that on their own. It's a bunch of citizens from town. We had a personnel meeting, and we had some discussion about moving some positions around a little bit. I had a meeting with the administrator and the court. We're hiring a new public defender, which should be on our next meeting agenda. Our last public defender had stepped off, so that we have a new public defender. We did interview a bunch and tried out a couple. This gentleman seemed to work well with us, and hopefully he'll do well with us moving forward. I attended a historical committee meeting, which I'm sure Councilman Bennett will talk about. There was a lot of good ideas passed around there. It's a good group of people that are very interested in the history of Pompton Lakes, and I think it's very important to keep the history of Pompton Lakes out there so people know where we came from. I mean, I learned something about a lumberyard that I never knew existed in Pompton Lakes for many years. So they have a lot of good information there. I attended a rec meeting. They are in the process of putting summer camp program together. If you're interested in summer camp, now's the time to go and register your kids. We try to ask you to register as early as you can because we have to hire counselors, and we don't know how many counselors to hire until we get a real good count of how many kids are in the camp. We do have a middle school camp, too, that runs 2 weeks at the Lakeside School. So we do have a 5th and under, and then middle school. I think that includes 6th grade also. I attended a zoning board meeting. They had a very short agenda. Speaking of meetings, they had a 2-minute meeting. They announced one thing and then canceled, ended their meeting. So I said, that's the kind of meetings I like. I'm going to need two closed sessions, actually, both on negotiation. And that's my report. Councilman, one on personnel too. I'm sorry, one on personnel. I thought someone else was fast. New employees? Okay, you tell me how we want to move on.
I have to talk to you.
All right, we'll have to talk about that. Okay. Council President Riker.
Okay. Well, Mr. Hinton, I used up most of my time with him.
You
but
did.
I did, so I'll be brief, and I, as a liaison to the courts, I do want to welcome our new public defender. The mayor and I did meet with him. We had a chance to get a sense of his philosophy on how he handles things. He clearly is very experienced. He's fairly local, and I think we're excited about having him on board. So we're hoping that works out well. I just want to mention that one of the things that I think is really special about Pompton Lakes is our Memorial Day ceremony and parade. And looking out in the audience, it appears that we have some press people here. And I just want to echo that I know we get great coverage after the parade, but our parade is, our parade starts, our memorial service, people gather at 10:45. The service begins at 11:30. It's really a very moving, beautiful tribute to the veterans in general, especially those in our community. And after that, then we have a parade that marches down Colfax and then Wanacue and ends up at VFW headquarters, where there are refreshments for all. That I would greatly appreciate if you help us get the word out that this parade, because ours is on Sunday, and a lot of the neighboring communities is on Monday. It's very high-spirited, and if you could help us get the word out that people from the neighboring communities are welcome to attend, and I think they will really find it really a wonderful event. Couple of quick things, and I'm sure Councilman Begg will go into much more detail, but we do have the bid bucks sale again June 10th. The bid bucks is sponsored by the bid. If you buy them during these special sales, you get for $100 you get $150 worth of bid bucks. So I'll pull them out of my purse, and you can hold them up if you want, just for those people who don't know what they look like. The other thing is we're really moving along really well on our concert series. This year we have the free concerts at the library. They were so successful that this year we're up to 6. And one of the reasons we're able to do that is we've been able to get sponsorship for each of the concerts. So if my notes are correct, one of the redevelopers is sponsoring Meridia, Columbia Savings, Chilton Hospital, the Subaru dealer in Wayne, the Farmers Insurance, which is a new business here in town, and Plum Law, which is one of our landlords in town. So we really have a nice mix of music. We have a nice mix of sponsors. First concert is June 8th, and there'll be posters and everything announcing all the rest of the dates. And I think that's really all I have.
Wow.
Yeah, how's that? Is that good? Thank you, Mr. Henry.
And I will follow up with the fact that the concert series, even though we started it last year, it's an enjoyable time. It gets a good chance to sit down and meet your neighbors that you maybe don't sit, you're just relaxing in a lounge chair and kind of hanging out. And we even purchased a stage this year to make it a little nicer, so they'll be playing off of a stage. So I think it'll work out well. And if I'm correct, unless there's lightning and thunder, that's the only reason they would be canceled.
That's right.
Okay. Councilman, June 8th is the only date we have right now?
The other one.
No, yeah, we have 6, I just don't know all the dates.
Okay, so June 8th is first.
Yes.
Here.
Councilman Giaconetti.
Thank you, Mayor. I did meet with down at the firehouse with the fire officials down there, and we did go over several things. One of the things I just wanted to mention to the attorney, I just wanted to make sure, as far as the one we're bringing up, even Eric, the ordinance amending several administrative code provisions affecting the Fire Prevention Bureau. Under the one section C, it's when you look into the code, coded system, it's not showing it, because it's supposed to list all the fines. What happens is, I guess, if in the event of malfunction, which will include intentional silencing of alarm systems, the following penalty shall be assessed. And it referenced 5-27C. But when you reference that in the coded system, it's not there. You guys gonna add that later? Because it's,
5-27C doesn't have the fines in it.
right, exactly. I'm just saying, this was like the copy that was submitted. I know it's in the process, but I just wanted to make sure.
What was it?
Are you talking about the ordinance I'm proposing?
Exactly, right.
Well, that 5-27C doesn't have anything to do with fines. It has to do with who can enforce the violations.
Right, which I know you put it in there, which we discussed, which is right. But as far as the heading under here, I circled it on here. It's mentioned in that, but it's not showing the fines.
No, because they're in a different section.
They're not under that C section?
No, they're in a different section.
All right, but it's referencing this, that's what I'm saying. It's referencing that, but when you go to look at it, it's not there. It's referencing the wrong number.
I'm not...
He's saying it's referenced.
I'll show you my copy.
Yeah,
This is what we went over. That's, I thought, with the latest copy. Where I have it circled, it's referencing there, but when you go to look there, it's not there. That's all I'm
no, it
saying.
isn't there, because it doesn't exist yet.
Oh, okay.
It will exist after you adopt the ordinance.
All right, so the fines will be there, it's the updated
Not in
fine?
that section. They'll be in
All
a
right.
different section. They're already there. 527C is a new section concerning who can enforce the...
Oh, and along with that, it'll be there. All right, I just wanted to double check. All right. I just wanted to double check before we go doing all this. That was their concern, and I wasn't sure. I just wanted to make sure we brought up that was their main concern. So once we discuss that at a future date, it will be there. Along with them also, what we discussed.
The fines are already there.
Okay.
They're already in the...
But I thought they wanted it bumped up.
No,
No?
I don't think so.
We didn't talk about bumping up fines, no. Not that I remember.
The only change in fines dealt with fire inspection fees.
All right, which is shown on here.
Yeah, but that it was shown, that's a different
All right.
section.
Because they're under the understanding that they were going to be up more.
The fines themselves,
Yeah, after so many times, after several times, it shows how many times it's done.
that wasn't my understanding.
That's why I just want to touch base and make sure we're on the same page.
That wasn't discussed.
All right. Well, we can do that at a later date. I'll do that, but I just wanted to run it by you. I'll make sure, I'll speak with them and to speak with you guys. We're getting on the same
We have
page.
time still.
All right, yeah, so we'll do that. So the other thing also we discussed, which we did tonight, was, we hired a part-time fire official, inspector, and she's gonna work out good down there, and, she's in the process of getting her full license. She's going to school now, but it's gonna be an added person down there, and she's gonna do the homes, and it's gonna free up the other two fire officials to proceed with a lot of the commercial. So, as you can see, like I said, we did hire her tonight, part-time, until she gets her certificate, she'll be full-time, but, I think it's gonna work out well. Also met with the chief, if you've seen, he had the sign around, the last section was over here on Ringwood Ave, the speed sign going towards Carlo Field, the lower end, showing you the speed limit. So they've been out there, they've been enforcing it, so please be aware. They're gonna be doing the crosswalks again, throwing it out there if you get caught, they're gonna be doing that next. Also we did tonight too, is a full-time telecommunicator for the department, which brings another one. I think she'll be a wonderful addition as well, from town, so I think she'll do a good job, and it brings up their dispatchers to where they need to be.
Right, and the reason we brought that on actually was to match the shifts, so they all have the same number of per shift.
Exactly, right. And I know you guys did meet with the personnel committee.
Yeah.
We did go over that too with the recommendations, so we'll move forward on that, I guess, with the administrator and future, so, but we did discuss that, and I'm on board with that, so.
Okay.
Looks like, it's good to going forward, so, that's all my report.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Bennett.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the library trustees meeting that the mayor referred to. The Friends of the Library are doing a great job raising awareness and raising funds. They actually are close to, or if not exceeded, $2,000 in fundraising. They're looking to eventually purchase some new books, additional books. They're looking to start a Lego club, so if anybody's looking to get rid of their Legos, they are accepting donations of Legos at the library. And also in yesterday's or day before's Hometown News, there was an article of the 105th birthday that some of us attended. Nice photo, nice write-up about what the Friends of the Library are doing. Next, I attended the Historic Commission meeting. Following members are sworn in: Al Evangelista, Dave Rowan, and Laura Jennings. Congratulations to those folks. A lot of talk about planning for Pompton Day, setting up a booth and raising awareness of what the Historic Commission does. Also, the folks are working on an updated walking historic tour, where you can start at any point, and then along the map, it shows the various historic parts of our town, which includes the lumber yard that the mayor referred to. It was called Bill Ding's, and it's where the Iron Forge is right now. It used to be in a lumber yard complex, apparently. A lot of good information. Got to keep that, got to record it and keep it active. Lastly, attend the Recreation Commission. A lot of talk about Pompton Day, ideas, new things to bring to the table, keep it fresh. Talked about additional food trucks, and also if there's any volunteers, anybody wants to help out with the planning and execution of Pompton Day, you can reach out to me or Karen Murphy. I attended the 52nd birthday of the Head Start program, which they are located at Pompton Reform. They asked, I read to the children. I have to admit, I had to practice with my little one reading out loud for a week. She let me practice. Usually her mom reads to her. She let me practice. And also that article was in today's Trends, a little write-up. And lastly, I attended the Pompton Lakes Coalition presentation.
Yeah, I forgot that was on the...
A lot of good information, a lot of good eye-opening information, kind of scary for what's going on. I'll let some of the other folks talk about that. That's my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our Alliance program did a nice presentation here on the opiate problems and the other issues we're having. There wasn't a huge attendance. I'd like to see more. I've asked them to reach out and get more involved with our PTAs. I think that's the group of people that really need to hear this information. The parents have to be well informed nowadays to know what's going on with this opium, and just the marijuana and how marijuana is used nowadays. It's a completely different thing than it was 20 years ago, and they really brought out some good information there. So I'm going to try to get her more involved with the actual school systems themselves. The schools have showed some interest in maybe bringing her into health classes and trying to give a little education to the kids in that. I think that's a great idea. It was a good program. Also, by the way, the Councilman Bennett mentioned, we are looking for new ideas for Pompton Day. So if anybody out there has a good idea that they'd like to see happen at Pompton Day, please let Karen Murphy or Councilman Bennett or myself know, and we might try to incorporate them. We're trying to keep it fresh, trying to bring in new ideas. So if you've been to some other fairs or been to other events and you saw something that was interesting, please let us know. We'll reach out and see if we can bring them in there. The newer events, especially for children, we're trying to reach out and get some new ideas for children. So please let us know that. Okay, Councilman Bay.
Thank you. I attended the Pompton Lakes bid meeting on May 19th, and as mentioned by Councilman Riker, the bid bucks are going on sale June 10th. They'll be on sale at Susan Brothers, 269 Wanacue Ave, starting at 11 a.m. And here's a nice bid buck right here. All right. The bid is also conducting a sticker hunt game program now through June 1st. Collect stickers by participating stores and win one of 40 prizes. 1,500 in prizes will be given away. Also discussed, as said before, was the summer concert. Again, the first one being June 8th at the library at 7 p.m. On May 29th, I joined members of the Pompton Lakes Prevention Coalition and the Pompton Lakes High School Health and Wellness Coalition Club in doing their annual "Thank You for Keeping Our Youth Alcohol-Free" sticker program. We visited participating liquor stores, Shoppers Liquors Store, J&N Liquor Store, and Empire Wine and Liquors. And basically what we do is we want the public to know that when you're out there watching and we don't want our youth drinking alcohol. And these stickers are placed on cartons of beer and whatnot. I also attended the coalition seminar, and it was very informative, but again, you're right, we could have used more public there. And that's my report.
So I'd like to thank the liquor store that you're talking about, because, you know, they don't have to do that. The Alliance coordinator goes to these liquor stores and asks them if they would allow the kids to come in and put these stickers on. Could you show that sticker one more time? And they don't have to say yes, and the liquor stores that do let them in, I appreciate that. They do show that they're trying to be community-minded in our town and at least try to help control selling of alcohol to underage. So I give them thanks. And you know, we have a pretty active Alliance club in the high school. There's probably about 50 members of high school students that go out and do this sticker shock, as they call it. And, you know, I give them a lot of credit, too. A tough group to be in the high school as a senior, going out and putting stickers on beer cans saying, don't overdrink. So, you know, that takes a lot of courage to do that as a senior. So I give them a bunch of credit also for doing that. Okay, Councilman Branco.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. As the liaison to the zoning board, Mayor stole my thunder to report that the zoning board meeting was literally 7 minutes. They had a couple of resolutions passed anonymously, one being the blue glass project that we've been speaking of now for a couple of weeks over on in Twin Lakes section. And that was obviously an approval, and the James Myers project, which was declined. The DPW as liaison to MUA, this was a crazy day for me. I had an MUA meeting today at 5:15. 2 meetings in one day, my first time, Mayor.
Welcome to my world.
Meeting started promptly at 6:04. There wasn't really much to report. It's a bit of a quiet time of year. Chairman Decker did commend Executive Director Wegley on his operations meeting, the sludge removal budget, which is apparently a rather daunting task here in town, to be sure that sludge stays out of the sewer system, and they've done a very good job. Their fiscal year ends on the end of May. That's May 31st, I believe, or 30th. I'm not sure if it's 30 or 31 days. They did do a rather important interconnection test underground over by the Genesis Masonic Lodge and the Reformed Church, which is essentially a connection to surrounding towns and other water sources, just in case we lose water here in town for whatever reason, whether we have failures of pumps or whatever, and that test went very well, so they were actually very pleased with that. And lastly for MUA is we do have a sludge removal contract, which will be going out to bid in the papers very soon. DPW had a phone conversation, rather a long phone conversation with Ben Stelzer for DPW today. A couple things to report. Over the last 2 days at the library, they're now finished with all the flowers that they've planted, hundreds of flowers. 30 yards of mulch went into the library over the last 2 days. They have finished the monument for the Memorial Day Parade, along with the Women's Club, which they always do a beautiful job. The flags are up on all the major roads, and they've replaced 5 new flags, including an 8-foot by 12-foot at the memorial, which is a giant flag, which we're going to have some fun with on Sunday. They did hire 3 summer helpers last week. All the lawns will be cut before Memorial Day on the public properties, and sweepers will be out all day on Saturday. And that's my report, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I was asked by the building inspector and the DPW to remind our residents that when you put your garbage out, it really is supposed to go out around 6 o'clock and then be brought back in around 6 o'clock the next day. You know, they have had a lot of complaints of pails being left out for days at a time, or being put out on a Monday or on a Tuesday for a Thursday pickup, and just sitting there and the garbage is blowing all over the streets. We've had residents called and concerned about, garbage all over the streets from people's pails being out. You can get ticketed if you put your pails out before those times. So try to stay within that window if you can by putting your garbage out, and be courteous to your neighbors there, and try to bring the pails back in when you're done. We're trying to keep the town, one of the objectives I did coming in as mayor was to try to beautify the town a little bit, and this is one of the ways that we can do that, by trying to keep the garbage off the street. So it's kind of important to me. So try to bring in your pails if you can. Councilman Devine.
Thank you, Mayor. The Thursday after the last council meeting, the Open Space Committee met. We met down at Willow Field to discuss some of the proposed improvements by Little League Baseball in moving their t-ball fields and a new girls softball field. Just wanted to see the current conditions, see how things sat, how things could possibly work. The committee shared their ideas and concerns regarding some of these initial items and some of the other things that the committee would like to accomplish down in that complex. Next meeting, which is always the second Thursday of each month at 7:30 p.m. in the council chambers. We'll also be meeting with the engineer in attendance and who's developing the plan to further discuss the plan and share those ideas and concerns with them. This past Sunday, the Trails Maintenance Committee completed their spring trails maintenance, included blazing the new Oakwood Connector Trail, clean up along the existing trails, and to prepare for National Trails Day on Saturday, June 3rd at 2 p.m. At the corner of Ramapo Street. From there, we'll be having a ribbon cutting ceremony for the new trail. I hope everybody can attend. What's that?
Do we have a date for that yet?
Yes, it's Saturday, June 3rd, which is National Trails Day, 2 p.m. 20 volunteers actually showed up that morning, which made for some light and quick work for everything that we had to accomplish. We usually try to do 2 per season, and the previous weekend was rained out, so we were very fortunate to have a lot of people show up on this past Sunday. The planning board heard and approved 8 new apartment units to be located at 229-231 Wanacue Avenue. The project did include a pilot and consists of either 1 or 2 bedroom units. I believe it was by Plumlow Partners was the applicant. So this is what happens. It goes through the redevelopment agency. The redevelopment agency gives its feedback regarding design, comes to a redevelopment agreement, gets it to the planning board. The planning board is still the approving agency for development applications within the business improvement district, especially as pretty much any development application within the borough, but within the business improvement district, they can be eligible for I say a pilot, but that's not true, just for the business improvement district per se. But in any case, that's how the process has gone. They've done the redevelopment agency. It was approved. They did the redevelopment agreement. It came to the planning board. The planning board reviews, makes comments, and then ultimately approves or denies that application. In this case, they approved. Last Friday, I traveled to Highland Park, New Jersey, to receive a small grant of $2,000 from Sustainable Jersey on behalf of the borough. We applied for this last month. This grant will be used to provide a stipend to an individual to assist in the documentation of the borough's actions. So I just had a pop-up. In the documentation of the borough's actions to earn points for Sustainable Jersey certification. In looking at the criteria, and having some discussions, I think we can actually get to the bronze level, which is the certification level, relatively easily. But the biggest problem that municipalities always have is the documentation portion. The amount, I don't want to say amount of paperwork, because they try to keep it as easy as possible, but just having someone to dedicate their time to do those kind of things, that's not my computer, that can spend the kind of time to put that documentation and do those kind of things, and that's what that stipend is going to allow us to do.
What's the time frame?
They have a rolling application for the certification. Actually, the current certification, I think, is on Thursday of next week. Obviously, we're not making that. So we're going to be shooting for the 2018 application period, which, again, I think we do a lot of these things already that gets us points. It's just a matter of putting all the documentation together, getting it submitted because it's an online submission, and then getting it ready for review and everything.
Well, I don't mean to speak out of turn, but we have an intern, a college intern that's working with us. This might be something that perhaps they could start, and it's a local kid in terms of possibly...
Yeah, it would be great to know there was a college intern, because then we can discuss that.
There will be another one.
Yes. and we're
Well,
getting
that makes it
another
even easier. Then I think
Okay.
that's somebody we can...
Yeah.
Interns only here for percent my hours.
but...
That's fine.
My point is, that this is going to be something we cut out for a year.
No,
Well-
that's my point, is that they're local, they will get to know us, we'll get to know them, they're an intern now, and this might be a part-time, either a part-time job or a part-time. It's not uncommon for the colleges to even give, our stipend is fairly small.
Well, we certainly could possibly supplement.
But what I'm saying is, if the student can get a combination of money and credit, therefore the stipend, it could be a win-win.
Sure.
Is
I mean, we could certainly discuss that. I think that's an opportunity.
Do we give a stipend to interns?
No, we don't give a stipend to interns, so that's, I'm saying going forward, as Kevin said, we have summer interns, but these are local kids that,
I'm a little concerned about giving them stipends.
No, it's not stipend.
no.
It would be an hourly rate.
Yeah.
So that they would be employees. They would become employees, not interns, yes, okay. They
Part-time.
can't just give money.
No, I understand that. It's just that, assuming that
They would become part-time employees.
they'd be part-time employees, and assuming that that it's not quite market rate, if they're getting credit in addition, then it suddenly becomes a great job, a great part-time job. That's my point. Okay.
Okay, well, one way or the
Put it on the back
other,
burner.
we'll find a way to get the certification. Actually, I'm also happy to announce that the borough was selected to receive free bicycle and pedestrian planning assistance from New Jersey DOT. This assistance will be provided by Michael Baker International and will develop a bike ped plan that will identify physical and programmatic recommendations to make Pompton Lakes a more bicycle and pedestrian-friendly town. Soon, we'll be meeting with the firm to develop a scope of work and a schedule for the plan. In addition, the plan will actually get us more sustainable Jersey action points for that certification. So I expect that to actually begin sometime this summer. I'm not quite sure of the time frame, but I'm looking forward to doing that. I'm very pleased that we were selected among, I don't know how many applicants they get, but it is free planning assistance, so it's not costing the borough anything except for probably my time and some other volunteers' time. As far as the tech committee goes, we might have checked the website. It's constantly being updated. One key feature is you can sort of sign up for Notify Me to get those updates right to your phone and email. So if you want to know if a meeting is canceled, you can always sign up to get agenda updates from a particular meeting. Then you don't have to show up and look for the sign on the door. You're welcome. Ordinances coming up for consideration. One is the open space ordinance. It would amend the open space trust fund to allow for the acquisition, maintenance, and improvement of borough open space, parkland, and recreational facilities, and not just those lands that were acquired using borough open space funds. So currently, our current ordinance, you can acquire land, but you can only do maintenance and improvements from the trust fund on land that was acquired using open space trust fund. That is a wrinkle that is quite different than most municipalities across the country that have an open space trust fund. Typically, what it is, it's, if you tell someone, okay, I want to use open space money for Hirschville Park, you can't do that based on our current ordinance. So this puts it more in line with other New Jersey municipalities that say, our open space is our open space. We have the obligation to maintain it, look to improve it, and adjusting this ordinance would do that. The other thing is, we've discussed a little bit previous tonight, is that there are a number of amendments to the code provisions affecting the fire prevention, one of which would add a provision to include the intentional silencing of an alarm as a malfunction, which may lead to a fine. That's within any 3-month period, with penalties of a warning, then $5, then $10, then $25. It would add a section which prohibits an owner or occupant of any real property of altering or modifying a smoke detector or carbon monoxide detector beyond what was approved at the time of installation and approved by the construction department, unless such an alteration is approved by the construction department. Third, it amends Chapter 19 to include the inspection fees in line with the Uniform Construction Code based on the time of the request before a change of occupancy. So if somebody comes in and says, I want, if somebody gives a 90-day notice of saying we're having a change of occupancy, I need an inspection, it's a certain amount. If somebody does it 3 days prior to a change of occupancy, it requires our fire prevention bureau to scramble a little bit, move resources. As a result, it's going to have a higher amount. And then finally, it amends Chapter 18-8 so that registration fees are applied to owners, lessees, and sublessees. I believe right now it's only applied to owners and lessees, sorry. Then there are conditions where we've had sublessees, so it allows them to put the registration on them. And then the third pending ordinance pending for first reading is regarding the design review and administrative code. It would amend 190-77 and 190-78 to place design review into the hands of the zoning officer, and only the zoning officer. The current code places that review under the purview of what's known as the Bid Design Review Committee. At the time of adoption in 2009, it was, I think, a well-meaning attempt to ensure design consistency in the business improvement district, but in execution, it's turned out to lengthen the review process and create some confusion as to who's the ultimate authority, because the authority rests within the zoning code, and the bid is, I'm not sure. It's part of the borough, but not of the borough.
It's a semi-group there.
Correct. So they don't really have statutory authority to enforce the zoning code. That rests with the zoning officer. This ensures that authority rests, again, directly with the zoning officer.
And the bid is okay with that change?
And it has been developed in conjunction with the business improvement district.
Yeah, because I was going to say that the bid oversight is primarily coming from...
They're more interested in the aesthetics of...
Well, that's part of it. That's the design review process.
And if they give you money, then you have to take their suggestions.
That's the price. The grant program that the bid offers is outside of the statutory regulations regarding the design review process. If they have, requirements or want to look at things over and above what's required, that's between that developer and the bid. But as long as that developer receives
electric.
Well, no, as long as they receive approval by the zoning officer, and they have no intention of getting bid money for those improvements, they don't have to spend any time going through that.
Just for clarification for the audience, just so that there's, okay, the bid has a visual improvement program, and one of the things that they do is they have matching grants, especially for new businesses or businesses who want to improve their signage, for instance. And so often, if they're giving you significant chunks of money, they have fairly, they have some folks who have some fairly strong opinions on what should and shouldn't be. So I think, and Councilman DeLine alluded to the fact that there have been some rough patches over the last year about this, so this way they're clarifying who's got what roles. But if for some reason you want bid money, then you need to go perhaps above and beyond what the ordinance will require, and work with their visual improvement committee to get something that's satisfactory to both in order to qualify for the grant money.
And that concludes my report.
Hey, now going back to what you started with the trails, for the audience at home, we've brought in new trails in the last 6-8 years that really are a big improvement to town. Previous to this, we had no real trail system down there. So this is a nice improvement to the town at little cost to the town, and I do know a lot of residents do use it down there. They are hiking on the trails, they take a walk down there. So it's one of those little improvements that makes a difference of a town. So I commend all the people that put time and energy into putting that together. It is a big difference. One thing I'd like to add before we get to the next reports, there was some talk about our flooding. The floodway maps have been changed. The DEP is already using the new flood maps. They're not official because other towns still have to incorporate the rules in. We are fighting the flood maps. We feel it's unfair that if they change the flood maps and you become in a floodway, You no longer have to apply to the town for a permit if you make any improvements on your property, but you'll have to apply to the state through the DEP, and that is a pricey and lengthy proposition to do, and we feel it's not fair to our residents where they were paying a $200 permit, now they're going to pay a $2,000 permit with the state. This is what the state is requiring, this is what the state is saying, so we are in negotiation with the DEP to see if we can work and change that. I don't think we're going to be able to change the flood maps. We do have some experts working on that, fighting the numbers that they came back with. We are probably going to make a tour down to the DEP at some point with all our paperwork and our experts and fight our case and hopefully see what we can get out of that. So I would like to know that the people in the flood areas that we are fighting hard to try to keep what we have now the same. You know, they are changing these flood maps, and it is putting people who were never even in a flood zone before into a floodway, which is the highest level. So it's going to affect some people in our town, unfortunately. Okay, professional reports.
I agree.
Administrator.
Just a couple things, Mayor. For the residents who want to know where the evaluation process is, the evaluation company has a website. We have received a letter from town that actually will show you progress of their inspectors. And I just looked at it the other day, and they're kind of all over the town, but hitting it very heavily. And Jack let us know that we did not receive funding. This year we had applied for funding to put some signage on the trails. That was not approved. The chief is working with Stu Scavone on a COPS grant. We have every year we apply to help the funding for police officers. Every year we kind of inch up a little bit. So for a small community, we apply in the top 10 for the state of New Jersey now. Of course, bigger towns like Patterson, Jersey City, Elizabeth, seem to get the lion's share of those funds, but we're starting to slowly inch up and get recognized, and hopefully we'll see maybe some luck this year. The Morris Canal Greenway project, H2M informed me that the DEP has about another week or so to go in its review process, and its original calendar is up. If we don't hear anything back from now, then hopefully we'll get an okay to begin the process of moving forward on a greenway once we get a DEP permit. So the only concern is that they could turn around and say we need more information or extend the calendar, but we're hoping that's not the case. So we want to try to get this thing moving and bid sometime this late spring, early summer. And that's what my report, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I will say that, just because you brought up the revaluation, you know, some residents are concerned that they see them walking around the neighborhood and they knock on your door and you have to let them in at that point. I will tell you, they did come to my house. They left a sticker on the door where they put a time that they would be back to inspect my house, and there was a phone number on the sticker. I just called them up and said that time is not good, and they said, what time is good for you? I gave them a time that, you know, that works for me, and they said, that's fine, and we'll be there that day, and we'll come. So don't be concerned that if you have to let them in at that moment, if you're busy or you have to get somewhere, you just set up an appointment with them, and they will come any day of the week, 6 days a week, night or day if you have to get in. You just have to make a call. If you want to be proactive and make a call to them beforehand, you can go on our website and get their number. You can call them up directly and say, look, I'm going to be here 2 weeks from Tuesday at 4 o'clock. They'll come down at that time if that's what you'd like to do. They're trying to be as accommodating as they can to get into everybody's house. I have spoken to a lot of people who they've been into their house already, and they said they were there 10 minutes, did what they had to do, and were gone. So it's not a long process, and it is something that unfortunately you have to let them in to give their revaluation. Any questions from the administrators? Nope. Okay. Moving along. Motion open for public comment.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Councilman Marenko, Councilman Riker, Councilwoman Riker. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to speak?
Seattle 444 Inland Avenue. Mr. Wagner reminded me of something. A couple of years ago, there was an ordinance for the signs. When you said political, there was an ordinance that you sent me copies of it. Was that ever passed, or?
No.
No. So we have no ordinance whatsoever for the signs?
We're going to, and this is just between the two parties right now, have a working agreement like we've had before. And if you'd like to talk to me about that, we can definitely talk about that.
Okay.
You know, we want to make it fair for both sides,
Right.
and we just don't want to litter the town, though, with signs either.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay.
Thank you. The other question I have, going back to Pompton Day, I have to commend the Board of Recreation for them building this up from my starting the fireworks in 1987. They did a great job since. The only other idea that when we used to run the festival day on Montague Avenue, we had the train ride was very popular for the kids, and we had the pony ride was very popular. So we had those two things that.
Bring those two
you know,
things,
kinda
I
add
think
on.
those are good things, actually.
Yeah, when the chamber ran that, it was very big.
I agree.
And it's, again, recommend the recreation, they've been doing a great job.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else? That's for two hands. Come on.
Hi, Peter Shazat, 314 Woodlawn Avenue. I'm thinking this may be a question maybe for the mayor and possibly Eric. I had a conversation recently, it was in regards to, I guess, the new T-ball field that's being considered. And I was curious if, A, I guess, what is the general cost of a new field or new baseball field or whatever it might be? And if there was kind of a cost-benefit analysis done between, you know, what it would cost to repair in the case of a flood versus what economic impact or economic benefit it provides by having extra amenities for the kids and things of that nature, and not to put a price tag on children or anything, but just out of curiosity, if there was any formula, I don't know.
We haven't met with the engineer, but I will tell you that the T-ball fields are basically just grass with bases on them. There's nothing special about a T-ball field, except some fencing. And for the softball field, it's, again, going to be all grass with just clay inserts of running. So it's not a lot of clay involved there either. So really, the real cost is in just the layout, the engineering, and then the fencing cost is where you're going to.
Okay, so it's not a very high new cost versus what we may have with our existing baseball fields and whatever. And I guess you were talking about open space money being redirected. Would that apply to this area?
Well, actually, the open space money can already be used for this particular area because the Willowfield complex was acquired using open space money. But, for example, I use the example of Hirschville Park. Hirschville Park is for open space. If you talk to somebody, they'll say, that's our park. And you say, well, we can't use open space money, open space recreation and historic trust fund money to improve Hirschville Park. It kind of sets off of like, that doesn't make any sense. That's, you know. But in that particular case with the T-ball fields and that particular area, we can use open space money because it was acquired using open space.
So just to clarify a little bit, the Joe Grill complex, which would be the complex coming in on your right-hand side, that's not open space funded. That wasn't built with open space funds. But everything to the left side, with the parking lot, the soccer fields in the back, the baseball field in the back, that was built. The Willow Field complex was built with open space. So that's a connection to open space. The Willow Field is using some of that space, so that's where the connection is for that.
Okay. Side question, is it possible for any of the open space funding to be used for what I'll call set-off trees to replace any that are being brought down, or?
Yeah, I mean, that would absolutely be in keeping with using open space. To me, that is just as much a maintenance or improvement to open space for that purpose.
Okay.
And that is a commitment of the project that we are going to move, or replace trees that we move.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, I do want to mention you mentioned it the last time you were here at the council meeting, the shingles from Tesla.
Yeah.
You mentioned it at the meeting, and not even the next day, an article all about selling the shingles for your house.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty interesting article, you brought it up.
Yes.
I meant to tell you, it was on there.
Yeah,
so.
sure.
I've already put my deposit down, I can't wait.
I'd be getting it next
I'm very
week,
interested myself, yeah.
But the shingles I want aren't coming out until next year. I
All
want the slate.
And I know you mentioned that, so I just
Yeah.
wanted to tell you, the next day I seen it in the
Yeah,
record.
thank you.
Yeah, very good, thank you.
You have your hand up? Come on up.
Randy Hinton, 443 Montclair Ave. I didn't have my hand up, but you anticipated.
Well, you had your hand up before.
I was scratching my head. On revaluation, is there a timeline as to when the residents are going to realize if their taxes are going to go down, up, or stay the same?
When they're all done with the reevaluation and they put all the numbers together and they come out with a rate, They will then have some numbers to give to residents. At that point, you can come in and speak to them again when you get that number, if you feel there was a mistake made. And the mistakes they're looking at is, they said you have 4 bathrooms, but you really have 3, or they said you have a finished basement and you don't. Those are the kind of things. They're not gonna, I don't think they're gonna discuss, I don't like the number kind of discussion. But if there's a mistake made, they will definitely address that.
Is there a timeline as to when that's going to happen?
They're looking at probably September, October, right?
No, November.
Oh, November? Okay.
November, December,
After- yeah.
this has to be on the books for January 1st. So this should be on the new tax records as of the first of the year.
So it'll be mid-November after, or?
November, December, yeah.
Our official have hearings here, and we will speak to them then,
They'll be here when?
November.
November into December.
Okay. Has the DPW garage repair thing completed?
A long way to go.
Long way to go. On that building, that's true. At the last meeting, I asked Councilman Devine if pending ordinances could be on the website, and he had asked Mr. Ragno, and Mr. Ragno said yes. Is there any work towards that goal?
Yeah, we're not going to spend the time and energy to do that. Most towns do not do that. We will have discussion up here, because that's, we feel that makes sense, but it's a lot of extra work to go ahead and put that out on the agendas and get that all out. If someone has a question or concern about what's going on, they can always come in and get a copy of the resolution that we're dealing with.
All right, so you just think it's too much effort to put it on ahead of
Yes.
time?
Yes.
So we're just going to stick with the,
Well, we're going to discuss it, we're going to talk about it like he did tonight. We'll bring it up, and it gives the public an idea of what we'll be talking about in the next session, and they're more than welcome to come to the next session and give their ideas or support on any of those.
just curious of what direction we're going to go with that.
This is a very nice compromise.
Yeah. Excuse me?
What we have on today's agenda is really a very nice compromise in terms of anticipating what's coming without having to go through the time and effort to post things in draft form.
No, it has been an improvement, I gotta say, from years past. Also, I was asking about the Willard Avenue, about the sidewalk there, crosswalk, a little dip in the road there. Has anything been checked on that?
You checked out, I'm trying to see what county is right in that.
It's in that little gray area between county and town.
I say it's the counties.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
County. The recent article in the Trends was talking about the water pressure that they're going to put for a plume area. And there was a paragraph in there asking if Chemours was going to set up some kind of insurance policy for the homeowners. Is that?
I did speak to Chemours about this years ago, and I did support that idea. The problem that we ran into was Chemours back then was interested in looking into it, but the residents wouldn't let them in their house to take pictures, so they said if they can't get into everyone's house to take pictures, they're not going to offer insurance. But I do support the idea that, and look, at the end of the day, there are shut-off valves that shut off automatically if the water gets too high in a table. So I do believe that there will be no flooding there. But for the peace of mind for those residents that are there, I understand what they're asking for, and I did go to DuPont, and I would still support that idea if it was to come up again.
So DuPont would be covering themselves, Chemours would be covering themselves. They want to take a before and after picture.
That's what they're asking. Or they were at the time. I don't know where they are now. This was 2, 3
It
years.
was DuPont at the time.
it was
It wasn't Chemours.
Wasn't Chemours at that
No, it
time.
was not
2 years
Chemours
ago that
during
first
this
came up.
discussion.
But it's understandable
It's
that
understandable.
they would want to take a picture
Yeah.
before and see if there was, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to vote? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session? Councilman Devine, Councilman Begg, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Privilege of the floor. Anybody have any privilege of the floor? Privilege of the floor, please. Privilege, go ahead.
I just want to reiterate and Councilwoman Stryker's comments about this Sunday's Memorial Day service and parade. It is a day of remembrance for the soldiers who have died serving our country, and to uphold those American values of freedom and self-reliance that we do hold so dear. So while most of us get a chance to enjoy a long weekend, we should all spend a moment of that extra time to think about those sacrifices that were made. And I do hope you spend that moment this Sunday at Memorial Park. Again, the services start at 11:30, and I think the parade starts about 15 minutes before, ends at the the VFW. So again, I mean, I think it's one of the things that Terry had mentioned that sets us, like, our community apart. And if you haven't been to it, please do come, because she is right. It is a very moving and important service that we do hold in our community. So
I agree 100%.
that's it. Thank you.
You're here. Anyone else? Motion adjourned to closed session. Okay, thank you, everybody. In closed session, we talked about, don't go anywhere, we're still in session. In closed session, we discussed negotiation of police officers and salary, and negotiate potential leases with properties in town. Motion to adjourn. Councilman Deline. Councilman Giaconetti. Okay, thanks. Nope.
Yeah, I got a quick balance.